What's going on, people? The last few videos I made were talking about phrases and words that people use that have either been changed over time to mean something completely different, or maybe a term that people have been using incorrectly. But part of the reason why I talk about these things is just there are things that I notice about humans and human nature, a lot of things that we do and say. And like just from watching the internet, you notice these things more and more. And one of the things that I notice is that, we do and say a lot of the things that we see other people do and say. And that's how words can kind of change over time or be used incorrectly. And this time I want to talk about the phrase freedom of speech and what that means. This is a term that I hear people throw around a lot. And I realize that a lot of people don't even really understand what it means. There used to be a time where people just kind of understood that there are possible consequences for things that we do and say. Also, I noticed that accountability is something that people talk about a lot, but most people just are not accountable. Now, most of the people who talk about accountability all the time are some of the least accountable people, and they just constantly point the finger at other groups and other people. When you agree with something that someone says, and like someone says something that was controversial, and there was a consequence, maybe they were taken off of a certain platform or lost a job, people like to start crying about this person's freedom of speech. Let's talk about what freedom of speech is and is not. Here's a definition for freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is the right to speak, write, and share ideas and opinions without facing punishment from the government. The First Amendment protects this right by prohibiting Congress from making laws that will curtail freedom of speech. It's talking about not being prosecuted for your words. It does not remove consequence from things we might say. Example: if a 300-pound, 6'5" man, all muscles, walking down the street with his wife, and you decide to walk up to his wife and get right in her face and call her a fat, ugly, stupid bitch, you just might get punched in your shit. This does not encroach upon your freedom of speech. It is still intact. You have the right to say this. But see, we used to understand that there could be possible consequences. This is a very simple concept. So I'm going to do another video later about cancel culture, which I think is bullshit. But what so-called cancel culture is, and what happens to some people who make inflammatory statements and comments about large groups of people. See, what happens is a lot of the times these people are in some way connected to a different entity. All right. So when this person makes this inflammatory statement that pisses a lot of people off, see, first off, it doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. If it pisses off a lot of people, it is in the best interest of that entity that this person may represent to separate themselves from that person. This does not encroach upon that person's freedom of speech. They had the right to say it, but there may be a consequence. If you are the CEO of, say, Starbucks, and see everyone has these little cameras in their pocket, and one of your baristas was going off on someone and said, we don't want Mexicans in our restaurant. Get the hell out. You may agree with them 100%. The CEO of Starbucks may agree with them 100%. But see, that person didn't become CEO by being stupid. So this would be uploaded to the internet. And of course, it would be shared because it's shocking. A lot of people will be pissed off. And that CEO, whether he agrees with the person or not, or likes the person, or it's a relative, understands that it is in his or her best interest to separate his company, the company, from this idiot. That makes sense. Those are called consequences. It is not violating your freedom of speech. Freedom of speech doesn't mean you can say whatever the hell you want and there not be a consequence. It's like you calling that 300-pound, 6'5" guy's wife a fat, ugly, stupid bitch. Sometimes I understand that we may say things and we may not understand the meaning, or understand that the word is being used in a way that it doesn't originally mean. But sometimes before we repeat things over and over, maybe we should just try to get an understanding of what it is that we're talking about. Freedom of speech does not mean there will not be consequences for your speech. Very simple. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.